Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so we started Giti group because we finished whole Arya group last week, and now we are in Giti group. So I gave a brief introduction to Giti group, and I will give you a chance to ask questions about it or any question about the previous class after explaining the first verse of Giti, because I couldn't explain it well last week. So I will recite the verse again. Sabbang patama dale yaddi lakkana mariyaya vutta mubhayesu yassa dalesu yuttang Vutta sagiti vutta yati lalita. Okay, this is the first verse of Giti group. We learned that there are 4 verses in Giti group. They are namely Giti, Giti, Upagiti, Uggiti, and Arya Giti. There are 4 verses. I'm happy one of our friends had composed one Arya Giti verse and sent it to me. So that is the 4th verse, Arya Giti. Now the first one is Giti. Giti. What is this Giti verse? Giti verse is, in brief, the verse that has been composed by repeating the first half of Arya verse. By repeating the first half of Arya verse, we know that there are some rules in Arya verses like Gana Niyama and Yati Niyama. There are some rules related to groups, and there are some rules related to word break. So both of those rules are in the first half of Arya verse and the second half of Arya verse. So that first half of Arya verse, which is with the rules, is the first half is repeated twice. Okay, then we call it a Giti verse. So here let's go and read the meaning. If in both portions, portion, we know portion means a part. So here part or portion refers to a half of the verse. So there are 2 halves in a verse. So in those 2 halves, in those both portions, there are all the characteristics spoken of in regard to the first portion of the Arya. Spoken of in regard to the first portion of the Arya. That means the first half of the Arya, together with the fine word breaks. That is called Giti. So there should be word breaks also. We know that there are two word breaks. There can be 2 word breaks in the first half and one word break in the second half. So those word breaks should also be here in the Giti verse. So let's check it word by word. Sabbang patama dale. Patama dale in the first half or in the first portion. Patama dale. Yadi lakkanang ariyaya vuttang ubhayesu. I think I explained this in, last week also, word by word. However, I will explain it again. Lakkana mariyaya. We should separate this, disjoin this as lakkanang ariyaya. And here also vuttam ubhayesu. We should disjoin as vuttang ubhayesu. So then ariyayang. Ariyaya in the Arya verse, or of the Arya verse, Patamadale, first half. So first half of the Arya verse. In the first half, Patamadale is the locative case. So in the first half of the Arya verse, Vuttang, that has been spoken or that has been mentioned. Sabbang Lakhanang, all the characteristic is there in Ubhayesu, in both halves, in both portions, in both halves. Yassa, in which verse? Dalesu, we know that Dala refers here to the portion or half. Then this Ubhayesu should be connected at Dalesu. So Ubhayesu Dalesu, in both portions, in both halves. Yuttang, there are here it is translated as together with. So in both halves we can see those characteristics. Vutta sa giti, sa, that verse. Vutta giti, giti, Vutta is called as giti. And another thing is that Vutta yati lalita, that verse should be decorated with the aforementioned word breaks. Okay, so there should be word breaks also. So that is Arya verse. We can go and check the groups here also. Sabbang is the first group. Then Pathamada is the second group. It is a Nagana, Na group. Then Le Yadi is the third group. Le Yadi. Then you see this is a Pathya Arya verse. After third group there we can keep the line break after the third group, or in other words after the 12th measure. Then let's go to the second line. In second line, Lakhana is the first group or the fourth group of the first half. You see 1, 2, 3, this is the fourth group, Lakhana. And then Mariya is the fifth group. Then Yavutta is the sixth group. You can observe that it is a Jagana. In Arya verse, the sixth group should be Jagana or Nagana. So here it is a Jagana, Yavutta. Then Mubhaye is the seventh group. Su is the Antagaru. So it is the first half of the Arya verse. Then let's check the second half. Yassa is the first group. Dalesu, second group. Yuttang, third group. You see here also we can keep the line break. Then Vutta, fourth group. Sagi, fifth group. Tivutta. You see here, Tivutta, it is also a Jagana. It's also a Jagana. Tivutta, sixth group is a Jagana here. Yati Lali is the seventh group. So seventh group, and the seventh group is a Nagana. Tha is the ending Garu, Antagaru. So here you can observe that the second half is also with the characteristics of the Arya verse. Usually we know that in a normal Arya verse, we should keep one lahu at the sixth place. There is not a complete group at the sixth place, but there is only one short or light measure at the sixth place. But here you can observe that there is a Jagana instead of a lahu. So this is not the second half of a normal Arya verse. This is also the first half. So first you can observe first half is repeated. And another thing is that we say that there should be the word break. There should be the rules of word break. So here let's go and see about the word break or Yati Niyama. So in the first half we know that if the sixth group is a Nagana, then the first according to the rules of the word break or Yati Niyama, after the first measure there should be a word break. So let's go and see the sixth group. Sixth group is Yavutta. Yavutta is the sixth group. So it's not a Nagana. It's not a Nagana, it's a Jagana. So we don't have to put a word break there because there is not a Nagana, there is just a Jagana. And then the seventh group, Mubhaye. Mubhaye. Mubhaye is also not a nagana. Mubhaye is also not a nagana, it's a sagana. So we know that there are two conditions. There can be two conditions related to word breaks. One is that if the sixth group is a nagana, then after the first measure of the sixth group, there should be a word break. And then if the seventh group is a nagana, then at the end of the sixth group, there should be a word break. So here we don't observe nagana. Because of that, we don't put a word break here. But if there was a nagana, we should put the word break. And then let's go to the second half. In the second half, sixth group. What is the sixth group? Yassa, Dales, Yuttang. Vutta, fourth group. Sagi, fifth group. Tivutta is the sixth group. So that is not a nagana. So we don't have to put the word break within it because it is not a nagana. But see here, Yati Lali is a nagana. Yati Lali is a nagana. So word break rule applies here, and we should put the word break after the sixth group. So like this, Yassa Dale so Yottang Vutta Sagiti Vutta Yati Lalita. After the sixth group, there should be the word break. So you see all the Arya characteristics of the all the characteristics of the Arya first half is can be observed in the both halves of this verse. So we call it Giti verse. So is that clear for you? Are there any questions? No questions? Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
clear.
Bante,
Okay. Yes.
I think I don't I didn't get the work break rule. Maybe because I missed a lot of section of yours. If I review again the work break rules, so
Okay.
which section I should go back and listen, because I'm kind of lost about the work break here.
Actually, I cannot remember which video it is, but actually, what you should study is in the Arya. Give me a second. So here now we are in the Giti chapter, Giti group. So before we previously we studied the Arya chapter, no? Arya chapter. In the Matta Vutti Niddesa, Dutiya Paricheda, second chapter, there are 4 subsections: Arya, Giti, and Vetaliya and Matta Samaka. We finished Arya group, and now we are in Giti group. So what you have to go and study is the second verse of the Arya group. You see here, Yati Niyama. Yati Niyama. Yati Niyama means the rules related to word break. Yati is word break. Niyama, order or rule. So Yati Niyama, rules related to word break. So here there is the Gana Niyama, the rules or order related to groups. Here, order related to word break. So 18th verse is about Yati Niyama. So please go and listen to that part, then it will be very clear for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
So Bante,
Yes.
actually, we learn the work break in the lecture 5, but I just make sure that just work break is for the purpose of the reciting. Is this Bante?
Word break is the purpose of the word break.
For the reciting, we just the work break is for the purpose of the reciting.
Yes, word break is for the purpose of the reciting. So
line break is also for that purpose. for the same purpose? Is it?
Yeah, yes. Line break is also for the same purpose. But what is the speciality is that in some verses, we know that some lines are somewhat long than others. Like in 8-syllable verses or 9-syllable verses, there are no word breaks. There are no word breaks because word breaks are not needed. But in verses like this, there are so many syllables, so many measures. Lines are long. So putting a word break in some conditions makes it clear for you to recite the verse. So that is why word break is kept here and there, as for my understanding. But there can be some other reasons, because you see in the Arya verses, word break is kept only if there is a nagana. If there is not a nagana, then word break is not there. So nagana, there is some speciality about nagana in Arya verses. Actually, in other verses, we will see in the future, nagana is not an important condition. In other groups also, word break is there. But in Arya verses and Giti verses also, now we are studying it, nagana is something important. So there can be some other reason also, but I am not aware of that. But the main reason is that when you recite long lines, a word break makes it clear for you to recite it. So it will be obvious for you when you study the very long verses, like in the future, like verses with I mentioned it before also, verses with 14 syllables or 20 syllables, lines are very long. So without a word break, it's somewhat difficult for you to recite. So the purpose is to make it easier to recite.
Yes, thank Bante.
Okay. So no more questions, right? So we finished the Giti part, and we are now going to the second verse of Giti chapter, and there is an example. There is an example from Gantharamba Katha of Sanyutta Nikaya Atta Katha. We know Sanyutta Nikaya is the third Nikaya of among the 5 Nikayas. So in Sanyutta, the commentary of the Sanyutta Nikaya Atta Katha. So in that commentary, there is a verse, and that is an example for Giti. So let's recite it. Sangyutta Vagga Patimanditassa Sangyuttagama Varassa. Sangyutta Vagga Patimanditassa Sangyutta Agama Varassa. Buddha Nubuddha Sangvan Nitassa Jnana Pabheda Jananassa. So this is the verse. Actually, it is considered as Arya Vipula verse. It's considered as an Arya Vipula verse here. So I have typed it. I will go there and show you. So here, it's considered as Arya Vipula verse. So that's why the comma is there after many measures. You see here, Sang Yut is the first group. Vagga is the second group. Patiman is the third group. So here, here we can actually put the line break here. If you put the line break here, then it is no more a Vipula verse. It's a Patyariya verse. So however, when Ditassa is the fourth group, so I prefer to put the comma here, okay, here. So then it is a Patyariya verse, because we have separated the Patimanditassa, we have separated in the middle of a word. So then Ditassa is the fourth group. Here comma is according to Bhante Ananda Jyoti. Bhante Ananda Jyoti considered this as a Arya Vipula verse. Arya Vipula verse. And then Sangyut is the 5th group. Aga is the 6th group. It is a Jagana. Ras is the 7th group, and Sa is the Antagaru. So here you can observe the Arya characteristics. So you can consider this as a Patya Arya verse and also a Vipula Arya verse according to Bhante Anandajyoti. So that's not a problem. Whatever, it should be an Arya verse. So Vipula is also an Arya verse, and maybe it's a Chapala, but Chapala is also included in Arya verses. So whatever, it should be an Arya verse, Patya, Vipula or Chapala. However, it should be an Arya verse. Arya is, the common name for all those verses. So we can observe the Arya characteristics in this first half, and in the second half also, Buddha is the first group, No Buddha is the second group, Sang 1 is the third group, and Nitassa is the fourth group. Here also, Sang 1, we can put the line break here. If you put the line break here, it's a Patya characteristic, but Bhante Anandajyoti puts the line break after the fourth group and considers this also as a Vipula verse. Nitassa is the fourth group. Jnanap is the fifth group. Pabheda is the sixth group. Jananas is the seventh group. So we can observe the Arya characteristics in this half also. So this is a good example for Giti verses. It's from commentary of the Sangyutta Nikaya. Okay, it's clear for you.
Yes, Bhante.
Okay. Then let's go to the second verse, Upagiti. We finished Giti now. This is the example for Giti. Here's the Upagiti verse. I will recite it. Ariyayang dutiyadhe gadita kila lakhanang yangtang bhavati dale subhaye supi yadi yassa saya mupagiti. So to give an introduction for this in brief, this is the opposite of the Giti verse. In Giti verse, what was repeated is the first half of the Arya verse. Here, the second half of the Arya verse is repeated. In Upagiti, second half of the Arya verse is repeated. We learned about the rules of the second half of Arya verse. There are Gananiyama and Yatiniyama in the second half also. Gananiyama, the rules related to groups. Yatiniyama, the rules related to word break. So all of those rules are there in the second half also. So that second half consisting with the rules, Gananiyama and Yatiniyama, is repeated. And then we call it a Upagiti verse. So here is the rough meaning. If the meter has all the characteristics that was related in regard to the second half of the Arya, in both portions, that is the Upagiti. Ariyayang dutiyadhe. Ariyayang in the Arya verse. Dutiyadhe. Second adha means half. Second half. In the second half of the Arya verse, Gadita kila lakhanang yantang. Gadita, which is told, akila, all, lakhanang, characteristic, yantang, the characteristic which is told, all the characteristic which is told or mentioned. Bhavati dale subhaye supi. Bhavati, there is Dalesu bhayesu pi. Dalesu bhayesu pi. Dalesu ubhayesu. Dala means portion of half, ubhayesu in both. In both portions, so in both halves. Yadi bhavati, if we can see, if there is, if we can see, if we can observe. Yassa, in which verse? In which verse we can observe in the both halves, the characteristics that were mentioned in the second half of Arya verse. Sa ayang, this verse is called as Upagiti verse. So that's the word to word explanation. And let's go and check the groups and word breaks here. Ariya is the first group. Yang Duti is the second group. I think these are very clear for you all because we explained about these things in the first discussions. So we consider one group. We consider 4 measures as one group. 4 measures as one group. So for an example here, A is one measure, Ri is one measure, Ya is a long syllable. So we consider long syllables as having 2 measures. So here Ariya, 4 measures, so one group. Yang Duti also 2, 1, 1, 4 measures, one group. Yad Dhe 2, 2. Yad is Yad 2 measures, Dhe 2 measures, so it's one group. So Yad Dhe is the third group, and then fourth group. Gadita is the fourth group. Kila Lak is the fifth group. Then Ka is the sixth lahu that we learned in the second half of Arya verses. Ka. Okay, Ka. Then Nang, Yang is the seventh group. Tang is the ending Garu, or Anta Garu. So you can observe the second. You can observe the characteristics of the second half in the first half of this verse. Usually these characteristics are in the second half, especially the Chatta Lahu, the sixth Lahu. The sixth Lahu we learned only in the second half of the Arya verse. But for the first time now we can see that characteristic in the first half of this verse. So this is not a normal Arya verse. This is a verse which is called as Upagiti. Thus, the characteristics of the second half are seen in the both halves here. So, so we know that there is one Yati Niyama related to the second half. That is if the fifth group is a Nagana. If the fifth group is a Nagana, then there is a word break at the end of the fourth group. So here fourth group is Gadita. Gadita is the fourth group. And then the fifth group is Kila Lak. Kila Lak. So that is not a Nagana. Kila Lak is a Sagana, not a Nagana. So because of that, we don't put a word break here after the Gadita. If this fifth group was a Nagana, then we should put a word break after the fourth group. Okay, then let's go to the second half. Bhavati da. Bhavati da is the first group because there are 4 measures. Bhavati da, first group. Le subha, second group. Ye supi, third group. Ye supi is the third group. Yadi yas. Yadi yas is the fourth group. Sa is the fifth group. Ya is the chatta lahu, sixth lahu. Mupagi is the seventh group. Ti is the ending garu. So this is actually a lahu. This is a light syllable, light measure, but we consider this as garu because it's the ending syllable of the verse. So that is, we call it anta garu, ending heavy syllable. So when you use symbols to mark lahu and garu, please mark this as a garu Actually, it is a lahu. Yes, that is correct. This is a lahu measure. This is a light measure, short measure. But we consider this as a garu measure because this is the ending syllable or ending measure. So please consider, please mark this with a curved line, considering this as a garu. So here also we observed the characteristics of the second half of Arya verse. So here let's check for the word break. Let's check the word break. So bhavatida le subha ye supi. Here the third group ends. Then yadi yas is the fourth group. Sa is the fifth group. So we know that in the second half the word break is there if the fifth group is a nagana. So here fifth group is not a nagana, it's a magana. So word break is not here too. So word break is not in the both halves because the condition is not there. Condition is that fifth group should be a nagana. So that condition is not there. Because of that, word break is not there. Otherwise, word break should be there. Otherwise, word break should be there. So I think it's clear for you. What has been done is that the second half of a normal Arya verse is repeated here. Second half is repeated here. Okay, are there any questions? No questions, right? Then let's go to see the example. Here is an example for Abhidhammavatara. Abhidhammavatara. Abhidhammavatara is a book like Abhidhammata Sangaha. So I have typed it and I will show you that. So here, here is the same example. Pagiti. So Sumadhura Vara Tara Vachano Kangnu Janang Neva Ranjayati Ati Nisita Visada Buddhi Pasada Jana Vedaniyo Yang Pasada Jana Vedaniyo Yang. So that is the verse. Let's check it. Sumadhura is the Sumadhura, one group, 4 measures. Varatara, second group, 4 measures. Vachano is the third group. So you can see after the third group, line break is there. That is why the comma is put. And this is a normal Pathya Arya verse then. I mean, for, the first half is with the first Pathya Arya characteristics. Then Kang Nuja is the fourth group. Nang Ne is the fifth group. Then Va, you see here is the Chatta Lahu, sixth Lahu. Then Ranjaya is the seventh group. Then in the second half, Ati Nisi, Ati Nisi, one group. Ta Vi Sa Da, two groups. Buddhi. I think this is long. Buddhi. It should be long. Let me check. Ati Nisi. Ati Nisi. Ta Vi Sa Da. Buddhi Pa. Sadaja. Naveda. Yeah, it should be long. Otherwise, it's not correct. Yeah. Buddhi is the third group. 4 measures. Buddhi, 4 measures. Pasada is the fourth group. Janave is the fifth group. The is the sixth lahu. Ni yo is the seventh group, yang is the antagaru. So you can observe the characteristics of the second half of a normal Arya verse in both halves here. Va, you see here, va, chattalahu is observed in first half, and chattalahu is observed in the second half also. So this is a good example for Upagiti verse from Abhidhammavatara. Are there any questions?
Yeah, hi Bante.
Yes.
That is not related to this specifically, but it's like a general question. So
Okay.
when we see a verse, is there any like prominent features that we should look first to determine whether or not it is, this type of gatha, this other kind of gatha? So for example, do we have to go through each line like this to determine, okay, this is Arya verse, Bante? Or any specific or prominent features that we can, tell right away that it is Arya verse?
Actually, you have to check it line by line. Yeah,
I see.
but I mentioned this before, so you can differentiate Vanna Vutti with Matta Vutti, because in usually in Vanna Vutti verses, we did not learn it yet. In Vanna Vutti verses, usually 4 lines are same. If 8 syllable verses, in all 4 lines there are 8 syllables. In 14 syllable verses, all 4 lines we can observe 14 syllables. So for all 4 lines are same. So in Arya verses, what is the difference is that first and the third lines are same, and then the second, how to tell it, especially the first line and the second line are different. Second line is very longer than the first line. So that is something prominent to consider the verse as Arya, or generally Matta Vutti. So after recognizing the verse as Matta Vutti, or especially as Arya verse, then you have to check it line by line to conclude which verse is this. So that should be done actually. Yes.
I see. Thank you, Bante.
Okay.
Bante,
Yes.
I checked in the Tika Abhidhammavatipitaka. In the should be double T, not long E. Bante.
It's not long.
Yes, it's not long, but double P.
Okay.
Ati tiki nabuddhi pasadehi.
Atti tikhina buddhi.
Yes.
Atti, here it's mentioned as Atti nisita visada buddhi. Atti nisita visada. Can you please recite the second half of the verse as mentioned in the book?
Yes.
Atti.
Yes. Atti nisita, right?
Okay.
Yes. Asita pe.
Atti nisita.
Yes. Niyo yayanti ati tikhina buddhi pa dasehi yanehi wade yaniyo ayanganto. Buddhip, double P.
Oh, the P is there, isn't it?
Double,
Buddhip.
yes. Yeah, Buddhip.
Buddhip. Okay, then it's okay.
Buddhip. Padehi, yeah, chanehi, yes.
Yes, thank you. Then it's okay. Buddhip. Oh. Okay. Ati Nisi, first group. Then we said the second group. Buddhip. Buddhip is the third group because there are 4 measures. Buddh, 2 measures. Dip, 2 measures. Okay, thank you. Then let's go to the third verse of the Giti group. It is Uggiti. Uggiti. What is Uggiti? Let me first recite the verse. Ariya yadha dvitayang. Ariya yadha dvitayang. Pubbodita lakkano petang. Vipariyaye nabhihitang. Yassa sambhavati cheha soggiti. So what has been done here in brief is that the first half and the second half of Ariya verse is reversed. That means the first half has come to the second half and the second half has come to the first half. So the characteristics of the first half of the Ariya verse can be observed here in the second half. And the characteristics of the second half of the Ariya verse can be observed here in the first half. Okay, that is in brief. So let's go and check the meaning. The meter which is endowed with the characteristics of the Ariya spoken of before in both halves. The meter which is endowed with the characteristics of the Ariya spoken of before in both halves. There are characteristics of the Ariya verses in both halves, but reversed to that previously indicated. That is the Uggiti. It is reversed. So Ariya yadha dvitayang. Ariyaya of the Ariya verse. Adha dvitayang. Adha means half. Dvitayang means both. This word is actually not clear for me also how this word dvitayang is made, because dvitayang is somewhat odd. However, the meaning is given as both here also. In Burmese translation also meaning is given as both, because we know that the word for both is ubhaya or dvaya. Dvaya is also correct. Dvi, the word is dvi, and the word is made as dvaya, dvayang. But here it is dvitayang, so it's not clear how it is made. However, my meaning should be taken as both. So adha dvitayang means both halves. Ariyaya adha dvitayang, both halves of the Ariya verse. Pubbodita lakkano petam. Pubbodita lakkana upetang. Pubbodita should be disjoined as pubbe udita, that is mentioned before, which is mentioned previously. Udita means mentioned or told, pubbe previously. Lakkana, the characteristic which is mentioned previously. Upetang, endowed with, upeta, endowed with, together with, endowed with. So the characteristics mentioned before are there in the both halves, but vipariyayena abhihitang, vipariyayena abhihitang, indicated as translated here, indicated, abhihitang, or we can take the meaning as kept, because abhi is the upasagga, and hitang, we can consider this as the root dha, to keep somewhere, to put, dha. So abhihita means kept, or we can take the rough meaning as indicated or told or mentioned. Vipariyayena, by reversing, vipariyaya and vipariyaya, same meaning. Vipariyaya, vipariyaya, same meaning, synonyms. So vipariyayena, by reversing, abhihitang, kept, yassa, in which verse, sambhavati, we can Sambhavati. How to translate it? He translated here as is. Sambhavati. The verbs bhavati, sam is the pasagga. Sambhavati is there. Cheha. Che sambhavati. If we can observe. Iha. Cheha should be separated as che iha. Iha. Here. So here we can give the meaning as in this Gita group. In this Gita group. Here. In this Gita group. So Soggiti should be separated as Sa Uggiti. Sa, that verse, it is in feminine gender, Sa, because this is referring to the Gatha or verse. So Sa should be in feminine gender, not in masculine as so. So because of that, we separated as Sa Uggiti. That verse is called as Uggiti verse. So the meaning is that the both halves of a normal Arya verse is reversed in a verse, and that verse we call Uggiti. So we should also remember that the group rules and the word break rules should be here also. Okay, then let's check it by group. Ariya is the first group. Ariya. Yad, dvi. Sorry. Yad, dhad, because this is a conjunct, right? Conjunct. So ud should be taken to the previous syllable. So yad, dhad is one group. Yad, 2 measures. Dhad, 2 measures, 4 measures. So one group. Then Vijitānandābhivaṃsa is the third group. Then first line is finished. Then Pubbo is the fourth group. Dittalak is the fifth group. Ka is the chattalahu. No Pe is the seventh group. Thang is the ending. Garu. So you can observe the second half of the Arya verse here. And then let's go to the second half. Vipariya is the first group. Yena is the second group. Vijitānandābhivaṃsa is the third group. And you see here we can put the line break, and it's Patya Arya characteristic. Yassa is the fourth group. Sambhava, fifth group. Ticheha is the chatta jagana, sixth jagana. Here there can be a nagana also instead of jagana, but here what has been put is a jagana. Soggi is the seventh group. Ti is the anta garu. So we can observe the characteristic of this first half of Arya verse in this second half of this Gita verse. So it's obvious that the second half is gone to the first half, and the first half is gone to the second half. So the Arya verse, the normal Arya verse, is reversed here, and we call it a Uggiti verse. So is that clear for you? Are there any questions?
So Bande,
Yes.
this word Vuttodaya in Sanskrit means twofold, double, consisting of two, and both.
Vittaya means twofold, right? Consisting of two.
Yes, and both also.
Balls.
Both.
Sorry.
Both.
Both. Okay. Both. So could you find how it is formed? I mean,
No, this is
like
this is a noun form. This is noun form.
This is noun form.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, what is the particle there?
I think
Suffix?
Only they explain in the Pāḷi, but I don't have time to check a Pāļi.
Okay. It's okay. Then later, please, if you have time, please check about the suffix because it's actually confusing. I did not meet anywhere the verse. I actually searched before the class, but I could not find it. What is the
Okay, Bante.
suffix? Okay, thank you. Okay, then let's go to the last verse. So here the matta count also you can observe later. It's not actually important because if you are in accordance with the rules, then the matta count will automatically be there as it is needed. So it is not something important. But you see, we know that in normal Arya verse, in the first half there are 30 moras or 30 measures, and in the second half there are 27 moras. But in here the verse is reversed, so we can observe only 27 moras in the first half and 30 moras in the second half. You can observe when you are free. This is not actually very important. So there are no examples for Uggiti versus I mean I couldn't find, and Bante Anand Jyoti has also not presented any example. In our books also there are no examples for Uggiti verse, so you can later do a research to find examples for Uggiti verses, so you can compose by yourself. So that is Uggiti, and now we are going to Ariya Giti. Ariya Pubbadhang Yadi Garune ke Nadike na Nidhane Yuttang Yadi Pubbadha Samanang Dala Mitarang Choditaya Mariya Giti. That is the last verse of Giti group, Ariya Giti. So what has been done in Ariya Giti verse in brief is that here also only the first half of Ariya verse is there in both places. In here also, in the first half also, the first half of Ariya verse is there. And the second half also, the first half of Ariya verse is there. Then what is the difference of Ariya Giti and Giti? In Giti also we learned that the first half is repeated. Here also first half is repeated. But the difference is that there is one more extra garu, extra heavy measure at the end. So that is the only difference. The first half of the Ariya verse is repeated, and in both halves, one heavy measure is added at the end of the half. So that is the difference. Let's go and check the meaning. If the meter has the former half of the Ariya at the beginning, former half of the Ariya, that means the first half of the Ariya at the beginning, joined with one extra heavy syllable at the end. At the end, there is one extra heavy syllable. And if the other portion is the same as the former half, this is spoken of as the Ariya Giti. So this is somewhat confusing. What has been told in the verse is that first it explains about the first half. The first half is composed by put in one extra heavy syllable at the end of the normal first half of Ariya verse, and then the second half is formed by formed as same as the first half. So that is, in other words, the first half is formed first, and then that first half is repeated. So it's actually easy to understand. The first half at the end of the first half of Ariya verse, one heavy syllable is added, and that is repeated. So in the second half also, what we can observe is that there is the Ariya first half, and at the end of the Ariya first half, one garu syllable is added. So let's check it word by word. Ariya Pubbadhang. Ariya Pubbadhang, it's a samasa. The first half of the Ariya verse, Ariya Pubbadhang, Yadi, if. Garune kena adhikena. Garuna ekena adhikena. Adhika, extra. Eka, one. Garu, heavy syllable. Nidhane, nidhana means the end. Sometimes you use this word nidhana for the death also. Death, nidhana. Nidhana refers sometimes to death, because death is also the end of the life. No, it should be explained like this, I think. Nidhana, the word nidhana is formed by ni and dhana. Dhana means how to translate it? Dhana. English word for dhana?
Property.
Yeah, properties. Yeah, properties. So dhana means properties, and nidhana means you don't have properties. Nidhana. So you can call nidhano a person who has no properties. A poor person you can call nidhano. So at the end of the life, you don't have any property to take with you. You have to go alone. So because of that, you call the death as nidhana. Nidhana. So your death is the end of the life. So you can use the word nidhana in other places also, which refers to the end of something. So here also the ending of the half is called as nidhana. So here this nidhana does not refer to death, but it refers to the ending. Nidhana. So ending. At the end, nidhane, at the end, at the end, ekena adhikena garuna, with one extra garu. With what? One extra garu. Yuttang, endowed with. There is one extra garu at the end of the first half of the Arya verse. Yadi pubbadha samanan, then pubbadha samanang, first half, samanan, same as the first half. Dalang itarang, other half is as same as the first half. Itaran, chodita ayang arya giti. Chodita, or cha udita, how is it translated? Cha, yeah, cha udita. Chodita is separated as cha udita. In Myanmar translation, as I remember, chodita is given the meaning chodita, that is told or mentioned. However, it can be separated as cha udita also. Cha udita, it's mentioned, it's told, it's called as Aryagiti. So that is the word to word translation. So let's check by group. Arya is the first group, Pubbad second group, Dhang Yadi third group. So it is a normal Patya Arya verse. And then Garu Ne is the fourth group, Ke Na is the fifth group. Then there should be a Nagana or Jagana. Let's see. Dhikena, sixth group is a Jagana. Nidhane is the seventh group, and then usually there should be one ending garu, but here there are two garu. You see, yut is the usual general ending heavy syllable, but thang, one more extra garu is added. So that is the Aryagiti characteristic. In the second half also, Yadi Pub is the Yadi Pub first group, Badhasa second group, Manang third group. Then the line break should be there. Then Dalamita fourth group, Dalamita fourth group, Rangcho fifth group. Then sixth group, there should be Nagana or Jagana. Ditaya, you see. Ditaya, lahu garu lahu. Ditaya is a Jagana. Then seventh group, Maria, seventh group, Maria Sagana. Then Gi is the normal ending, Antagaru, but Ti one more garu is put there. So here also ti is lahu, short, but here it is the ending syllable, ending measure, so we consider it as heavy syllable. So here also extra heavy syllable is added at the end of the half. So so it's clear now that the in both halves, Arya first half is there, but in both halves one more extra ending garu is added. So here you can go and check the Yatiniyam also, but I'm not going to check it because we did not observe a Nagana in the 7th place of the first half or in the 5th place of the second half. So there cannot be Yati, there cannot be word break. And you can also check for the Jaganas at the odd places, because there cannot be Jaganas at the odd places in any Arya verse. So you can check for them also. Obviously, there cannot be Jaganas at the odd places. By odd places, I mean the 1st place, 3rd place, 5th place, and 7th place. So those places there cannot be Ja groups. And still some of you can have difficulties with the groups. So please practice them. Please practice them. By practice, you will easily recognize the group. You will easily differentiate the groups. Like we cannot always mention that lahu, garu, lahu is jagana, or 4 lahu, 4 short syllables are nagana, or 2 long measures are magana. It can be difficult to mention them again and again. So please practice them. By practicing, it can be learned and it can be remembered. So are there any questions related to Arya Giti verse?
Yes, Bante. May I
Yes.
have a question? That's in the first half, can be anta garu happen. It means, for example, in this for the second half, in the I group, we have the antapada, and my question is whether in the first half it repeat the same in the I group, antapada again. Do you get my question, Bante?
No, not yet. Antafada. Why Antafada? You mean Antagaru, right? Antagaru.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
It means it's lahu, but we consider it a garu at the end of the A part.
Oh yeah. In the second half, right?
No, in the first half. In the second half already happened. My question is whether in the first half it happened again in this kind of verse.
Okay. You mean if in the first half also if there is something like this, if there is something like T at the end. Yeah, it's completely okay. It's completely okay. We consider it as garu. Yeah.
Yes,
it can be short. Yeah. It can be short, but we always consider it as garu in Arya verses, in other verses also, because it is the ending one. So you can put it short or long, however you put, we consider it as garu.
Yes,
okay.
Thanks, Bante.
Okay, no other questions, right?
Yeah, I have a question, Bante.
Yes.
Yeah, so in this Arya Gati, so the end of the 2 lines is one more extra garu. So the 6th part is Jagana. So we need to apply the Yati after the Jagana or not, Bante? Is this rule to apply the Yati or not?
In this example?
Yes.
Yes, you can apply Yati, but we have learned that related to Yati, there are conditions. there are conditions. If those conditions are there, you can put yati. If conditions are not there, you cannot put yati. Like the condition is that nagana should be there, nag group should be there at the 6th place or 7th place. I'm talking about the first half. In the first half, 6th group should be a nagana or the 7th group should be a nagana. If those conditions are fulfilled, then you can put yati. If the 6th group, you see, if the 6th group is a nagana, that is a condition. If the 6th group is a nagana, we can put the word break after the first syllable of the 6th group. You see, there is a condition. If that is a nagana, then there is a word break. And then if there is, if the 7th group is nagana, you see, that's also the condition. If the 7th group is nagana, then the word break is there at the end of the 6th group. So that's it. So if there is no, if the condition is not there, then word break cannot be there.
Yeah, Bante, is yati is important to in gatha or not, Bante? When I compose gatha, so it is that it fulfill the condition to make yati, but I don't want to make yati. Is okay or not, Bante?
It's completely okay. If you don't want to insert yati in your verse, please do not insert naganas at those places. Then it's correct.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. But if you have to insert nagana, if the exact word you want to put forms a nagana there, then you would have to be aware of word break. Because if there is a nagana at the 6th or 7th place of the first half or at the 5th place of the second half, then the word break will be there. So in such case, you have to consider that.
Okay.
But
okay,
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Bante.
Okay.
So one more question. So
sure.
In the sentence, dalang itaran jodi tayang. So in this sentence, we practice was it because of the sandhi or because of yati, Bante? Or just the group, better group?
We actually do not keep, we haven't put a word break there. You mean these short lines, dashes?
Yeah.
Actually, that is not for word break. Bante is, I think he has put it to separate the words, like how to recognize that they are joined. There is a combination, sandhi.
Sandhi. Yeah.
Yeah, sandhi. You see here, dalang itarang. There are two words, dalang itarang, but they have been done sandhi. There is a combination. So then the nigahiti is replaced by m, and then the sandhi is, that is a sandhi, dalam itarang. So to denote that, the short line is put there. That's not the word break.
Yeah. So it's just for sandhi purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just for sandhi purpose.
Yes. Okay, I see. Thank you, Bante.
Okay. Okay, then no more questions, right? Right. Then we have successfully finished the Giti group. So there are two more examples here. Two more examples here. For those who are interested in matta count, here matta count is given in the both halves. There are 32 mattas, because we know in normal Arya first half there are 30 mattas, 30 moras. Here one extra garu is added, so it becomes 32. So both halves are same. So there are 32 mattas in both halves. And here are some examples, and they are not examples for Giti verses. These are some different verses. Like here you see, Vijitānandābhivaṃsa has a run of 34 verses in this unusual meter at this point. There are 34 verses in Vijitānandābhivaṃsa, and these are some examples. These are two examples for those. These are from those 34 verses, and these are not in accordance with the Arya or Giti characteristics. Some differences are there. So he presents, Bhante presents these to mention, to show you that there are some unusual verses also which are different from the verses presented in Vuttodaya. These are not Vannavutti, these are Mattavutti. So these are very same with Arya verses. These are very same with Arya or Giti verses, but there are some differences in the formation. So not completely same. We are not completely in accordance with the rules we learned. So such things can also be there. Maybe I don't know how these verses are composed. Maybe he's the author of the Vijitānandābhivaṃsa is referring to some other sources apart from Vuttaratnakara also. I have no idea about that. But however, these are some unusual verses. So that is the Giti chapter. We are going to Vijitānandābhivaṃsa chapter. We are going to finish the first verse of Vijitānandābhivaṃsa. Before that, I will show you where are we now. So here is the Vuttodaya Pāļi text. We know that in Mattavutti there are 4 subsections. From those 4 subsections, we successfully finished Arya Jati, Arya group, and then we today successfully finished Giti Jati, Giti group, Giti type, Jati means type. So Giti type, Giti group is finished, and now we are going to the Vijitānandābhivaṃsa Jati, Vijitānandābhivaṃsa Jati, oh, Vijitānandābhivaṃsa Jati. So that's it, third subsection, and one more is remaining, Matta Samaka Jati. Then the Mattavutti chapter will be finished. So let's go to Vijitānandābhivaṃsa Jati. So Vijitānandābhivaṃsa meters are considered by the scholars as used in very ancient times, not like Arya and Giti. Vijitānandābhivaṃsa are considered as ancient verses. Actually, in our Tipitaka also, in our Pāļi canon also, Vijitānandābhivaṃsa verses are found. So this is the first Vijitānandābhivaṃsa verse. Vijitānandābhivaṃsa verse. Visame cha siyung kala mukhe same twatta ralaga tato pari Vijitānandābhivaṃsa tamucchate lahu chakkang na nirantarang same. I will repeat it. Visame cha siyung kala mukhe same twatta ralaga tato pari Vijitānandābhivaṃsa tamucchate lahu chakkang na nirantarang same. So that is the first verse of Vijitānandābhivaṃsa group, and that verse itself is called as Vijitānandābhivaṃsa verse. Like in Arya group, the first we learned Arya. Like that in Vijitānandābhivaṃsa group, the first verse is Vijitānandābhivaṃsa. In Giti group also, the first verse was Giti, right? In Giti group, there are 4 verses: Giti, Upagiti, Upgiti, and Arya Giti. So the first verse was Giti. Likewise, in Vijitānandābhivaṃsa group also, first verse is Vijitānandābhivaṃsa verse. So let's see the meaning of the verse. In the odd lines, what are the odd lines? First line and third line, odd lines. There should be 6 instances in the opening. Second point, but in the even lines, second and fourth lines, even lines, there are 8. Third point, thereafter, there is ragana, a light syllable, and a heavy syllable. That is called Vetaliya. Fourth point, there should not be a set of 6 light syllables without a break in the even lines. So it's clear for you that in this verse, completely different rules are there, because in the Arya group and Giti group, we dealt with same rules, right? In Arya, whole Arya group, there were the rules we learned in the Gananiyam and Yatiniyam. In whole Arya subsection and in the whole group Giti subsection, we dealt with, we worked with those rules, Gananiyam and Yatiniyam, right? We worked with those groups. But here you can observe that completely different rules are there. These are not same with the Gananiyama and Yatiniyama we learned in Arya verses and we worked with in Giti verses. Completely different, but not very difficult. I mean, different but not difficult. So what are those what are those characteristics? Let's go and see in the verse. Visame, we learned that Visama means odd. Visama is the Pāli word for odd, and Sama is the Pāli word for even. So there are odd numbers and even numbers. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, they are odd numbers. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, they are even numbers. So Visama Pada means odd line. That means first line and third line. Samapada means even line, second line and fourth line. And also in previous verses, we learned odd groups and even groups. Odd groups are first, third, fifth, and seventh groups. Even groups are second, fourth, sixth, second, fourth, and sixth groups. So here we are now talking about Visama Pada, odd group, odd line. So Visame in the odd line, Tha, Siyung, Kala, Mukhe at the beginning. We know that word Mukha sometimes refers to mouth, sometimes refers to face, sometimes refers to beginning. So here also beginning, in the beginning. Visame Mukhe, in the beginning of the in the odd line. Tha, 6, Kala means translated here as instance, or in other words, parts. But we learned in the verse Gano idha chatukkalo. Idha, in this Mattavutti chapter, Gano, one group is chatukkalo, 4 measures, 4 moras. So we use this word kala to refer mora, right? So here also word kalo here, plural kala, refers to mora. So Tha kala means 6 moras. 6 moras. Siyung, there are 6 moras in the beginning of the odd lines. So you see in the third line, in the first line and in the third line, first there should be 6 moras in the beginning. Okay, then that is about the first and third lines. Then let's go to the second and fourth lines. Same in the even lines, second and fourth lines. Tu, but, or in as the Burmese translation, tu. Apart from that, here you can see tu is translated as but, however. So tu, atta, 8. Same in even lines, atta kala siyung. Same in even lines, mukhe at the beginning, Atta Kalasyung, 8 moras, 8 measures are there. So in second and fourth lines at the beginning, there should be 8 moras. However, there should be 8 moras. Then Ralaga Tato Pari, Tato Upari, Tato after that, Upari, Upari is Tato Upari is translated as thereafter. Tato Upari thereafter. Upari actually on that, after that, on that. Tato Upari. Yeah, thereafter, Ralaga, Ra group, Lahu and Garu are there. One Ra group, Ragana, and then one Lahu syllable and one Garu syllable are there. So you see in the first line, when you go to the first line, there should be 6 moras and then Ra group, Lahu, Garu. In the second line, there should be 8 moras, then Ra group, Lahu, Garu. Third line, there should again be 6 moras, then Ra group, Lahu, Garu. Fourth line, 8 moras, Ra group, Lahu, Garu. So that is the rule. Vetaliyang tam uchate, vetaliyang tang uchate, tang, that verse. Vetaliyang uchate, that verse is called as Vetaliya. So, yeah. One point is that tongue, you see, this is kept in, tongue is the subject of, not subject, object of uchate, but it's in passive voice. It's in passive voice, tongue uchate, that is called. Okay, that is called, so passive voice. So this should be in nominative case, according to grammar. So you see, tongue then should be in the neutral gender. Tongue is neutral gender. So why is that kept in neutral gender? Usually we refer to gatha, verses. So word gatha is in the feminine gender. So shouldn't we keep this in feminine gender too? Like in previous verses, we used sa, yassa, right? Yassa in which verse? Sa, that verse. But here we use tongue in neutral gender. So that is because in Vuttodaya, we use all 3 genders to refer to verses, because there are many words in Pāli which mean verses. One feminine word is gatha. One masculine word is siloka, siloko, shloka in Sanskrit, shloka. And one neutral noun is vutta. So here also vetaliyang vuttang, So we refer to that neutral gender of the noun vutta and keep this in neutral gender. Tongue, that verse is called as vetaliya. Another rule is there. What is that? Lahu chakkang na nirantarang same in some lines, in even lines. Lahu chakkang, 6 light syllables. Na shouldn't be there. 6 light syllables should be there. How? Nirantarang, without a break. Ni antarang, antara means break, ni without, nirantarang, without a break. Without a break, there shouldn't be lahu, there shouldn't be 6 lahu syllables in the even lines without a break. Okay, that is a rule for 2 even lines. So I will repeat the rules. In the first and the third lines, there should however be 6 moras first, and after those 6 moras there is a ra group, and then 1 lahu and 1 garu, right? Third line also same, 6 moras, ra group, lahu and garu. In the even lines, 8 moras, then ra group, then lahu and garu. 8 moras, ra group, lahu, garu. And another thing is that in these two lines, in the even lines, there are usually 8 moras at the beginning. So within those 8 moras, there shouldn't be 6 light syllables without a break, like lahu, 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 light, 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 like that. 6 light moras without a break shouldn't be there. So those are the rules for Vetaliya group. I think, obviously, this is easier to compose than Arya verses. Easier to compose than Arya verses. This is the Vetaliya verse. So this is this is an example from Uttara Vinichaya. Uttara Vinichaya is a Vinaya book. So I have typed it. Give me a second. Are there any questions for you? I will show you that. Are there any questions about that Vetaliya verse?
So Bande,
Yeah.
If, for example, if we don't understand this is a Vetaliya verse, we maybe first we will think it is Arya, but of course this is not following the Arya rules, right? Because if we only count if we only see the matas, there are 30, right?
Yeah, 30.
Yeah, 30 matas. So in the Arya also 30 matas, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So if we don't check the rules, we will think maybe this is Arya.
Yes, yes, we will think this is Arya.
So that means actually when we wanted to analyze the verse, even one verse, we will take a long time to analyze it, right? To find out what kind of group belongs.
Yes, yes, it takes some time, but instead you can look for the main rules, right? Like when you see a verse, you can go and check the first line, just first line. If the first line has 12 moras, like 3 groups, then there is a probability for it to be Arya verse. If there are more than 12, then you are sure it's sure that that's not a Patyarya verse. Then you are going further. What has happened next? Like that, you can just see for the prominent rules one by one. You don't have to go and see all the things. Like yeah, like Vannavutti. In Vannavutti also, another example I will say you. In Vannavutti also, there are so many verses now. In Vannavutti, there are 8 syllable verses, 9 syllable verses, 10 syllable verses, and so on. So what you have to do first is that when you see a verse, you don't have to check. You are not going to check it syllable by syllable first. First, you check how many syllables are there. Like when you see nahi verena verani, you first check it. Nahi verena verani. There are 8 syllables. In the second line also, sammanti kudacha nang 8 syllables. So after checking that, you are sure, it's sure for you that this is an 8 syllable verse. After confirming that, you are going further. Like that, you have to check for the prominent rules and then go further one by one.
Okay, thank you, Bande.
Okay, so here is the example given by Bante from Uttara Vinichaya, Vetaliya example. Bhannato patato payunjato sunato chintayato panuttarang paramang abuddha buddhi vaddhanang vadato me nirata nibodhatha. Bhanato patato payunjato sunato chintayato panuttarang paramang abuddha buddhivadhanang vadato me nirata nibodhatha. So that's the example. Let's go and check. So here we don't have to check like bhanato, one group. We are not going to check like that because the here rules are different. First rule is that there should be 6 moras at the beginning. Bhanato, bha, 1 mora, 2, na, 2 moras, to, 4 moras, pa, 5, ta, 6. 6 moras at the beginning, right? Then to, pa, yun, there is a ragana, ja, lahu, to, garu. You see, 6 moras, ragana, lahu, garu. Ralega tato pari. Okay. Then in the in the second line there should be 8 moras at the beginning. Su na to 4 moras, chin 6, ta ya 8, right? You can count with me, right? 8 moras at the beginning. Then ralega tato pari. To pa nut ragru ta lahu rang kar. Right? Okay. Third line, paramang 4 moras, a 5 buddh. Paramang.
The separative is a paramang and the a buddha.
Paramang 4 moras, a 5 buddh 7.
Should we do Sandhi here, Bhante?
Parama buddha, right?
Yes. So Parama Buddha, then it should be said.
Parama for buddh. Okay.
I think this separated as paramang a buddha. It has 8.
But the problem is this is the third line, so there should be 6. There should be 6 moras at the beginning. So, right?
Yes, but if
Yes.
according to his analysis, it become 8.
Vadato me tha. Vadato for me 6, nira 8. So here in the fourth line it's okay. Vadato me nira 8 syllables, then ragana, then lahu garu. In the third line there is a problem. Paramang for buddha for 8. There are 8 which cannot be there in the Vetaliya verse. However, this is not a good Vetaliya verse, I have to say. But Bhante has taken this as an example, and he has mentioned in the footnote. He has mentioned in the footnote that the opening of this line is syncopated. Syncopated. I don't know the meaning of that word. Syncopated. The opening of this line is syncopated. However, this is not a good example for Vetaliya verse because the third line is not in accordance with the exact Vetaliya rules. So, however, that is the example given. So there is a very good example from the Pāḷi canon, from Dhammapada actually. So I will show you that. This was, as I remember, in the Burmese book, but I can remember it well because it is very good example from composed by Lord Buddha. So this is it from the Pandita Vagga of Dhammapada. Pandita Vagga of, yes.
I have a question about the word ra Ralaga. So Ralaga is the Ragana, and then Lahu and Garu. So what is that
Yes.
Garu? Is it the Antagaru?
Yes, it's Antagaru.
So
It's
Antagaru,
Antagaru.
it applies to all four paras, or just at the end of the second and the fourth lines, Bante?
All four padas, because Ralaga, the rule Ralaga is same for all four lines. Ralaga. Ragana Lahu Garu. You see here, Ragana Lahu Garu in all four lines.
Yes, because I remember like in the previous lectures, and when we see Antagaru, it only applies to the end of the half, right?
Antagaru is applied at the end of the half.
Maybe I was wrong, but that was
Yeah.
my memory. So it should only apply.
Yeah,
to the end
you
of
are
the
right. You are right. In Arya verses, that was there. In Arya verses, Antagaru was there only in the at the end of the half, not at the end of every line. Because when we count the groups, we count if at the end of the first line there is a Lahu, we count it as Lahu, not Garu. In Arya verses, yes, you're right. But here it's different. In all four lines, the ending syllable is Garu.
So that means if it's light, we also count it as the Garu, right, Bante? Because
Yes,
it's
we also
Antagaru.
count it as Garu. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay. So this is the example. We know. I think you all have heard this verse. Very good verse from the Pandita Vagga of Dhammapada. This verse is there are in two places in Dhammapada. One word of the verse is different, like this ending word Pandita. In another in another group, in another chapter of Dhammapada, as I remember, Dandavagga. This verse is there, but the ending word Pandita is replaced by Subbata. So word is there in two places in Dhammapada. Udakanghi nayanti nettika usukara namayanti tejanang darung namayanti tachaka attanang damayanti pandita. So there is a very nice meaning. Please go to Dhammapada and read the meaning. It's very good for your life also, as an advice from Lord Buddha. Like the wise person controls himself. So that is the meaning of the last line. So please go and see for the translation, those who do not understand meaning. So that's it. So let's check the verse. Udakang 1 1 2 1 1. There are 6 moras. Udakang. Then yanti net is the ragu, ti is lahu, ka is garu. You see, 6 moras, ragana, lahu, garu. In the second line, usukara nam, 8 moras. Then yanti te ragana, ja lahu, nang, garu. 8 syllables, ragana, lahu, garu. 8 syllables, then ralaga, darung nam, 6 moras. Yanti tach ragana cha ka lahu garu. Atta nang dhamma 8 moras. Yanti pan ragana di lahu, and then tha garu. So 6 moras ralaga, 8 moras ralaga. Third line again 6 moras ralaga. Fourth line again 8 moras ralaga. So this is a Vuttodaya verse by Lord Buddha. Okay, so let's finish our discussion for today. Do you have any questions? No questions, right? Okay, then let's wind up our session. I will give you an activity, and I will put it in the group later for this week. Okay, let's wind up the session by reciting Buddha Sasanang Chirang Tithatu. Buddha Sasanang Chirang Tithatu. Buddha Sasanang Chirang Tithatu. Buddha Sasanang Chirang Tithatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you all for participating in the class.
Sadhu, sadhu,
Thank
sadhu.
you so
Thank
much,
you.
Bhante.
Thank you so much,
Sadhu,
Bhante.
sadhu.
Thank you, Bhante.